Hello and welcome to the Matchbook Betting Exchange English Greyhound Derby podcast. Yes, indeed, I'm joined again by the master Paul Lawrence and myself, Ian Fortune. We'll look at the last 24. Believe it or not, we're down to the last 24 in the Star Sports TRC English Greyhound Derby. We have 4 heats to look forward to. We have 8 heats to look back on. We have, again, our reflections on what happened last week and hopefully tell you what's going to happen this week. Before we get stuck into a PL, just a reminder, folks, POD50 is the code you need if you're going to sign up for Matchbook Betting Exchange. Unbelievable betting opportunities with ourselves, of course, percentages down to close on 100% come the off of some of these races. Of course, every Greyhound market is priced there through the day and through the week. So well worth your while getting involved. And again, £50 free bet if you put 50 pounds worth of bets on. So there again, the entry code is POD50. PL, a pleasure as always. We're down to the last 24. Can you believe it?
No, it's great, isn't it? It's amazing how most of the real fancy dogs have made it, and they're still there. And there's some conundrums to work out for the quarterfinals. But yeah, it's a real high quality derby, isn't it? And the cream is still rising to the top.
Yeah, I'd say your job was made easier now on Saturday night by some exceptional racing, some great races. There was nothing sort of out clear that you had to sort of fill space. It was proper racing, and that was sort of, that was sort of, never seen better than the Bocco's Diamond Cheap Sandwiches class. It went down to a short head, but like for much of the way, it looked like Bocco's Diamond had matters in hand. It was only in reflection we realized how well Bocco's Diamond did to even lead after what he did at boxes. But just a remarkable race between two remarkable greyhounds.
It was, and they finished first and second in the Irish Derby late last year, and yeah, I think we both agreed that they were drawn the right way round, and they kind of seemed to come out level as well. And then he just seemed to lose his feet, just slipped, didn't he? And he sort of almost nearly went down his belly somewhat, but he gathered his momentum quickly, and then he ducked inside. And I think that's the thing where Bocco's is coming in at the bends, Cheap Sandwiches is sort of staying wide-ish, and that those two different styles came into being. And where you think, I think someone said, "Oh, it nearly caught me out," and where you think, well, Bocco's will go on and win comfortably. He was just sort of coming to the end of his tether, and Cheap Sandwiches was coming at him, and it was on the bob, and he had his head down, but it was a fantastic finish, and it was a great buckle between the pair.
Yeah, and as a result, they're the top 2 in the betting market. They're the top 2 in the anti-post market. We're going to take a look at that in a few moments. But before then, there you see it, Bocco's Diamond, currently at 3.5. That is better than you'll get with most, certainly, of the fixed firms, because he's 2-1 with the sponsors. Cheap Sandwiches, 5.6. Again, that's a bit bigger. He's around 4-1, 9-2 in places. Da is next in, of course. The defending champion is very much still there. And then you have a couple more Irish names, of course. Bombay Pat may have suffered defeat, but he's still there, 4th in with Sole Mio. Then you have to go down to Droopy's Plunge, the first UK trained greyhound in the market, at around 20-1, 21 on the exchange there for a few quid. Sing Along Molly, March On Freddy, Droopy's Trade, Bubbly Charger. I think looking at those, my initial instinct is Bubbly Charger is probably a bit big at 27, although he is drawn in 1 the next night in a very hot heat. You have Tiffield Tarquin, Romeo Empire, and well, even if you keep going down, like the likes of Droopy's Aladdin, his dog has really impressed me through the competition. Dynamic Force arguably produced his best run of his career the other night in defeat behind Solomeo. And Fay Point Harvey, who was sent off a pretty warm favourite for his 3rd round heat, is the rank outsider of the party. Would you believe it? Unbelievable. He's not the rank outsider. There's definitely more greyhounds there. No, we haven't gone all the way down, of course. PL. Before we go into that anti-post market in too much detail, let's talk about last week's 3rd round. Of course, 5 Irish winners. The 5 fastest heat winners were trained in Ireland. I don't suppose it's a real surprise when you look at the firepower that's there. Let's focus firstly on the 3 English trained winners. Slick Sentinel. The closer I got to the race, the more I was shocked by the fact that he wasn't sent off the clear favourite. I thought he was a guaranteed leader on the outside. The money just kept coming for Sunnyside Broxy, and while he's very talented, but he was a finalist last year, I could count on one hand the amount of times I've seen him pace up and go round in front. And the artist formerly known as Ballymac Gizmo was sent off the 6-4 favourite, but from a stride in, Slick Sentinel was a guaranteed winner.
Yeah, and I think, as you said in commentary, he loves Toaster, Slick Sentinel. I don't get me wrong, Sunnyside Broxy, as you say, got to the Sunnyside Broxy got to the final last year when he was known as Ballymac Gizmo and trained by Liam Dowling. But yeah, I was surprised as well. I must admit, I thought he had a chance. Don't get me wrong, but I just thought he was one of any of the dogs that probably the main protagonist that could have won. But as you say, Slick Sentinel had a massive chance to lead with a good break, and that's exactly what he got. He dominated the race. The key to him winning was clearing Derek Knight's dog on his inside, and he did just that. And once he was on the front end, you needed a stick of dynamite to get him off him because he is a very, very good front running dog. Slick Sentinel, no dangers.
The same can be said for the second of the English trained winners, Droopy's Aladdin. He went off 11-4. I thought he was absolutely guaranteed to go off the clear favourite. But there was good money for Prince Nassim. He just seems to be the popular greyhound. And while I've been a long time fan of Prince Nassim, and I know the Bergen family that own him, and they were delighted to send him over. They're a bit sort of chagrined that I don't call him an Irish greyhound, but he's not. He's trained in the UK by Maxine Loughlin. She's doing a fine job, and he did well to qualify in third. I was amazed that Droopy's Aladdin wasn't sent off a shorter price than 11-4. In the end, he dug in because he had to work his way past Keefel Maverick, but he showed good track craft. He has good pace. Just seems to be a greyhound with a lot in his favour. And once he went to the front down the back straight, he was basically always going to win. 11-4 seemed generous.
Yeah, and again, I think we both made him on our tissues. We both independently made him 9-4 favourite, and as you say, he actually did go off a decent price, and you could get a decent price on the Matchbook Exchange at the off as well. So, yeah, there was a case of maybe he made his own fortune, didn't he, by pushing his way up inside Keefel Maverick? They definitely clashed, but he was a dog that in Monmore, in the puppy derby in Monmore, where he looked desperate for the rails. He looked at a real tight track one railer, and yet in Toaster he's kind of again probably getting that little bit older, a little bit wiser, still a puppy, but he's not diving straight for the rails. He's just off the rails a little bit, and again that is probably a good asset to have when you go this deep in the derby, because when you're draw dependent all the time and you're not going to get it, and we'll see with some of these draws in the quarterfinals, he might just be able to mind himself because he's definitely got a nice turn of early pace.
Yeah, he's a lovely turn of early speed. He went on to win, and then Droopy's Trade 6-5. I think that's where we were expecting him to go, sort of a much shorter price than he had been available during the week, and it seemed his world and his mother wanted to be on. I'm not sure they wanted to be on at the third bend when Hello Diego started to stalk him. And, I was having the sort of, why did I not tip Hello Diego at the prices, given the fact that, you stick with the Irish as far as I'm concerned in terms of the tipping. But it was a good sort of determined display by Droopy's Trade to hold off a very strong running rival. And that's 6-5. I'm sure he was in one or two multis as well.
Yeah, it was my nap of the round really, and at a good price as well earlier in the week, as you say, and there were lots of people that just kept splashing on him, and he delivered, and he kind of half came out okay, and then he took his time to warm, and then he sort of went from probably winning line into the turn. He was very brave to push his way to the front, get inside Maxine's dog, and I just thought that. He was brave. He was tenacious, and you kind of just worry about the last few meters with him. But he saw it out well enough, didn't he? Because we do know that Hello Diego stays, but maybe it's that we keep mentioning the Tralee Juvenile. I do anyway. He came out of that stake, and there's a lot of really high quality dogs. Maybe he's just that couple of lengths better than Hello Diego anyway, even though we know Hello Diego stays and maybe a little bit vulnerable in the closing stages of his Trade. But again, he just might be getting that little bit stronger in.
You suspect that's as close as Hello Diego will ever turn to him? Well, Bard, it's a much hotter race, and Druby Straight is struggling to get a run. But yeah, on to the Irish winners. Of course, we've already mentioned Bocco's Diamond, Bubbly Charger, and Solomio. They're flying the flag for the Kirby form, and both of them did it very well from the front. We saw Bombay Pat doing Bombay Pat type things, just not sharp enough at the boxes. I have a thought going forward now for the next round, but Bubbly Charger just is a greyhound that is really on a rapid incline. He just seems to be improving all the time, and just like the way he's going about it.
Yeah. Again, the only worry with him really is he wants to be drawn in the middle, and it's really funny because, if it was me, if he had that choice, rails or middle, I'd put him middle. It's a bit like you on a Saturday night after Shelbourne. You think, do I go home and make myself a salad sandwich, or do I go and get a burger? And there's a big M.
It's never the former. It's never the
The
former, Pia.
big M, and it says M. It's not middle. It's McDonald's with you, but it should be for the Matthews. It should have been middle, and I really think they should have kind of been one step ahead. And I'm not telling them how to train grounds. I'm just saying I really feel that he would have been much better. And even Damien was interviewed after, and he said he would want he called it the magic box. Again,
Yeah.
the M came up, the magic box, the middle. Why didn't they put him middle? Because I think he'd have more chance of running the straight line from the middle. And because we saw it a mile off, you said it last year in the Irish Derby. It looked the same thing this year in the English Derby at Toaster. That there's going to be lots of wides qualifying. All the quality dogs are wide. I just think that you give yourself a better chance running the straight line. 3 or 4 would have been perfect for him, and you could have got that.
Yeah, he's in one. That's the problem.
Now he's got one. Yeah.
Solomio set the standard, a fantastic run, beating Dynamic Force. You really put it up to him, 3 parts of a length, nothing between them at the line, a terrific display, and Solomio impressive.
Yeah, he was impressive, but he's another dog. He's moving off. And again, when we were talking anti-post bets, and you mentioned him, I didn't really know how good the Kirby form was, but it's good enough, isn't it? The fact that Peter Cronin had Kildare, who did so well and got to an English Derby final after coming out of the Kirby. He's done as you said, similarly bred with Solomio. But I think I said to you, I think he was another one in the juvenile. And he was drawn on the inside, and he just couldn't really handle the bends that well, and he was running off. And I just think if he's drawn off, he's just going to attack the bend much better. And you've seen out of 3, he's moving off out of 3. Again, he doesn't really want a rouse tag; he wants a middle tag, and he'll be much better running in a straight line for me and going into that first bend at the right angle to then cut across. He goes nowhere near the rails.
Yeah, he's a ringer. He's a ringer for Kildare. That's exactly what
Pacing.
Kildare did.
Yeah, there's loads of pace.
Romeo Magico was up his inside. I do believe that the 2 of them are so lightly raced that still might come, and they're gaining experience every night. So I wouldn't be as forthright in the view that I think they'll throw away links from the inside. I think they're getting cuter. Like they're learning on their trade. Deladida, we have to give him a good mention. The defending champion. Since I mentioned that he wasn't as sharp as he once was, he's pinged out twice and basically made all. Balnabola Joe really put it up to him. It's a shame that 2 of them had to clash and that Balnabola Joe was shuffled back. But that's greyhound racing. Balnabola Joe, I think his reputation was only enhanced during his Derby campaign. He's really won on the radar for the Irish Greyhound Derby. But Deladida. Just this fellow is now forced his way into the top 3 in the betting, and it's hard to dispute that.
Yeah, it is. He's really surprised me. I think he surprised you, Deladida, but I think he surprised Liam in the first round, even because of the phenomenal break that he took and the clocking that he took, the 28.50 that he did. Now, it'd be one of those that you'd probably be more likely to see him in the semi-final or the final do that, Deladida. But the fact that he did it in the first round, he made everyone stand up and take note of him. And as I say, I think it caught Liam by surprise. But he was a little bit unlucky in the second round. He just got tangled up a little bit in the early stages when Teddy came across him a little bit. And Balnabola Joe was in that race, and he went clear, and Deladidar was closing on the run for the wire. And there was always going to be a scenario again where you got that free box where you just fancy they might trap that little bit better, but he got the flyer and Joe missed it, and it was a good buckle. It was a bit kind of had the connotations as well as with Bombay Pat and your Bubbly Charger, where Bubbly Charger took the flyer, Bombay Pat missed it, got to him, but then couldn't quite handle it. And I think probably the same might have happened in that Joe could have got there to Deladidar in that scenario after missing his break, but you just fancied he would still qualify because of his quality and because of that pace he showed. But they clashed, and he just lost his gait, if you like. He just lost the momentum, whereas Deladidar's that bit more battled hard and he held the inside line. And Joe just tried to chop across too early at the third turn, and it is a shame we lost him.
It's remarkably similar to the exit that Ballinabula Ed made in the Derby in that quarter-final. Again, had to work to get there at the fourth bend, cut across, and like you said, lost his gait. Just got a couple of bumps and just seemed to lose his action for a moment or two, and before you know it, he shuffled. And that's Joe. But Deladidar running as well and as strong as ever. As I said, I always believed the engine was still there. Just wasn't sure he was as capable of going up as strongly as he had done in the past. But he's found his trapping boots again, and that's always been the key to him. He was always like that as a pup. Like when he was fancied in that Irish Derby that first year, that's what he was doing. He was winging out. Okay, dogs might come to into the opening bend, but if he got there was nothing going to pick him up, and that's how strong he's running now. He's running very, very well. And the one we haven't mentioned is Sing Along Molly for our pal Pat Buckley, and she is running just a dream around Toaster. Hard to believe she didn't have a trial around the place before her opening round effort. And there you see at 23, like she was a considerably bigger price than that before the first race. She's the last remaining bitch in the competition, and she's got trap 6 the next night, PL. And I'm sure, connections know it's pretty tough, but she has every chance of qualifying given how strong she's running from that second bend.
Yeah, she is, and actually she's running the bends really well. Whereas she fiddled away around the first night, as you say, because she hadn't had the look. She ran the bend really well last Saturday, and then she flew into the third bend, and she came home strongly to win. And I think there's no reason why she couldn't, even qualify the next night, because she's just running. She's probably running really, really well, and she's one of those that'll keep going. So you never beat with her. It is an interesting race that actually she's in. So, but yeah, she was very impressive last week, and you could only imagine getting used to Toaster now. She could keep improving and find a couple of lengths. She got absolutely mullered at the start. I said to you about Vagar moving off, and it was really difficult to see. But if you look at the head on, she was taken out really, really wide. But it's that metal that she's got. She's got that never say die attitude, and she just keeps going. It didn't really affect her. She didn't let it. She shrugged it off, and then she just ran the first and second bend beautiful, and then went mad down the back and picked up Faye Point Harvey, who I'd actually backed. I just didn't think she'd get a run, and she did. You hold your hands up. You got beat by the better dog on the night.
She's an interesting one. Whereas that bump almost nearly acts as a red rag to a bull. It nearly gets her going, that sort of way. Things go easy for her. She just does what needs to be done. But if you put a bit of put an obstacle in her way, she just finds a way. She has unbelievable gears. Like, there's no question about that. She's an unbelievable engine. That's it. That's the 8 third down heats looked at. Now it's time to maybe just review one more time that anti-post book, PL. At the top of the market, we see Bocco's Diamond. I don't think either of us would disagree he's the right dog to be up top, nor would we argue with Chief Sandwiches. And just given the fact that Deladidar got his draw the next night, I think he's nearly got the best of the draws of the big guns. I think the 7.8 is probably perfectly fair. Bombay Pat, if there is a touch of value in it, maybe Bombay Pat is the one of the top 3 or 4 in the market, given the fact that we know how quick he is, and he has got trap 4 the next night. And in many times, that's probably been his best box. We'll get back to that in a moment. Solomio at 12.5 to 1 there, 13.5. Just a little bit concerned that he's going to have to do things right, because he's going to have to ping out if he's going to lead the likes of Cheap Sandwiches. And then if he doesn't, he's also Droopy's Aladdin sort of going up strongly, and you book him, March on Freddie and Sing Along Molly hammering home. So he might just be vulnerable if he doesn't set the pace. Droopy's Plunge probably hasn't produced his best during this competition, PL. We are also impressed with him in the juvenile in defeat, but he really hasn't shown much of his sparkle. And, you know, I'm not sure I'd like to be getting stuck in on him.
No, I think I said he's draw dependent a little bit as well. And he keeps getting trapped too, and he's definitely going in the ways. I thought he changed his legs a little bit on the going into the bend, the first bend, and he got dragged back. And then actually he was on his own at the third bend. He did the same thing. He just whether he's got those bumps and it's affected his confidence a little bit, I'm not so sure. But he's one of those dogs that he is draw dependent. And he's got an awful draw as well.
I've been a bit harsh to him there. Of course, he was flawless in the opening round, 28-64. It's the subsequent starts where he just hasn't really got involved in the race.
No, but he's one of those dogs that he's a good competition dog because he's so strong. But as I say, I was just a little bit concerned about him. But the thing is, he kept going through the line, and he did get dragged back. And I think he turned fourth dog. And he had plenty of work on, and he got past to qualify, which is really important. But as I say to you, he's not really been lucky with his draws because he's desperate for the inside. He is desperate. He is a proper railer, and he is a quality dog. He showed that in the juvenile, and he's won some nice races here in the UK prior to that. So that's what got him into the juvenile in the first place. So. He is a quality dog. He's just maybe those little knocks might have dented his confidence somewhat. And I think the best thing for him actually in his quarterfinal is him to walk at and miss it, and because he hasn't got a kind draw at all.
Get on the fence and hunt them around and try and pick up the dogs that don't lead, that need to lead. Of the ones we've mentioned, is there anything that you would be tempted to go in at, or is there something further down the list? Like, we'll get into the makeup of the races on Saturday night in a moment or two, but just before we go to that, is there anything that you think, I think he's a likely qualifier, I wouldn't mind having a nibble on him?
No, well, you've mentioned the dog already. I've actually backed Delardidar on Matchbook Exchange at 10 after I saw what he did the weekend, and after his draw for the quarterfinal, I think he's a gimme to be in the semis. And I just think Liam's got him firing. He obviously loves Toaster. He loves Toaster, and I think that's really important. Toaster's not like any other track, really, is it? And so you need to be able to run it. That caught out Balabola Joe. Balabola Joe was as quick as Delardidar, but he just couldn't negotiate the third turn. And that's what's caught him out. He's out of the competition, sadly enough for me, because he was my biggest winner. Those young dogs we were talking about. I think we mentioned it last week, or you mentioned it last week. Keep going on about that. The Tralee juvenile. He was in it. Droopy's Patriot was in it. I did texted Robert Gleason this morning. He'll be back soon. He was those sort of dogs. They're going to be the proper second season dogs. They're the quick dogs that you can see now, and Balabola Joe's up there with them. And the way that the old boy matched strides with him, you just got to say that is proper Derby form. He did it last year. He's actually firing on all cylinders this year, and there's no better man to get a Derby campaign that he's successful from last year to do it again this year.
Yeah,
I've got to be with him. I've got to be with him.
Yeah, it's hard to knock anything he's done thus far, and he's just running so strongly. Like, even if he thinks you're going to find a bit of bother, like, he is so strong from the halfway mark to the line that he's going to recover. You'd suspect. Now he only has to negotiate 2 more rounds, and there he is in the final again, bidding to become another dual winner of the English Greyhound Derby, the first at Tolster, I believe. But yeah, we'll get to him again in a moment, because I think it's time we took a look at these quarterfinals. The opening quarterfinal: Droopy's Book and Soul of Mio, Droopy's Aladdin, March on Freddie, Cheap Sandwiches and Sing Along Molly. And Understandably, Cheap Sandwich is a pretty hot favorite PL. He's got a very kind draw. I'd be a fraction worried the March on Friday takes a step right, but I think Cheap Sandwiches is more than sharp enough to account for it. And I think Cheap Sandwiches is the most likely pace setter here, though Droopy's Aladdin in the 3 box is an issue. And Solomio, he's been going up very well at 395 last week, but Cheap Sandwiches is just has that extra touch of class. Like this at Irish Derby runner-up. Saw how well he ran last week against Bucco's Diamond. And I just think he's a deserving favourite. Now, that's not to say there's not value against him, but I do believe he's the right favourite.
Yeah, I mean, he has been backed. I think he was evens, and he's gone into 4 to 6 now, and you might still get a bit of 4 to 5. I made him 4 to 5, and yeah, I'm a big fan. He's a big winner for me in the anti-post book. I actually think March on Freddie will say straight from 4, Ian, and I went back actually and watched his 2 efforts. The last 2 efforts in the Derby, the Irish Derby from last year, were both from track 4, and he stayed straight. And I think he'll be all right. I did say to you, he's ducking in from 6 when he's getting to the bends. And I think even when that trouble came between Joe and Delali Dar at the 3rd turn last week, he wasn't wide enough to get round him. He got caught a little bit when they came together. So I don't think 4 will really worry him that much. Cheap Sandwiches might just edge off slightly from 5. Sing Along Molly will probably edge in a little bit from 6, but all things being equal, as long as you get a sensible breakout of Cheap Sandwiches, I noticed in the first 2 rounds he wasn't quite coming home that hard. He came home good enough against Bucco's Diamond last week. So
his last 20 strides were really purposeful last week. Like he made up a length in a very short spell of time, because by all accounts I'd be the same as you, like 15 yards to the line, and Bucco's it was like it was one of those where you go, if he's after getting his nose down, I'm going to look like an idiot here. And then we've both done it, but yeah, he just made up an awful lot of ground. Just really seems to be running with a bit of purpose. I agree, which I think 4 to 6 is a short he will get. I don't think they'll come from. I don't think this is one where he'll go any shorter than that. I think you'll have a few that said, I missed the even money, or the 10 to 11, or even the 5 to 6, that sort of price. I think 4 to 6 is as short as you'd want to go, but I think he's a very worthy favourite. And towards the end of the exchange market, I wouldn't be surprised if there was a bit of 192, 193, that sort of a price.
Yeah, it's. But I think the key to the race is what Solomio is going to do. It's probably going to be the key to the race, because although Solomio, I had him lane 4. I've got him out of track 3 twice, moving into lane 4 and even 4.5, nearly 5 in the second round. But I've just also gone back and watched him in the first round, Ian, and out of track 1, he didn't really move off that much. And I'm just wondering, Aladdin will definitely go in the ways from 3. He'll definitely edge in. He did that in the first round from 3, and then he corrected himself and he straightened up. If he was at Monmore probably 2 months ago, he'd have dived straight for the fence. But I mentioned that earlier on. There's just that in the back of my mind, 2 and 3 are drawn wrong here. Solomio in 2 and Droopers Aladdin in 3. And if Solomio takes a flyer and he clears Aladdin straight away, he will be in lane 4. There's no danger of that. If he sees clear daylight, he will be going a diagonal line. Droopy's Bookham's got a fantastic draw here.
I was just going to say, the place market is worth a glance, isn't it? Like this the dog, he's around the 12 to 1 mark now. He could be 16, 18 on the exchange, and he could easily be up at 5.6 on the place market. And that doesn't quantify, that doesn't tell you exactly what his chance of making the frame is, shall we say. You know what I mean? He's a stronger chance of making the frame than he does, obviously, of winning the race. But normally it's around quarter. This fellow probably should be a touch shorter in terms of reaching the frame. I agree with you. I think Droopy's Bookham is a dream makeup. Now, he still needs to do things right to be in the right position to take it. But if he does come away racing, like, he might find himself in sort of fourth spot in the opening corner, but he could easily be entering the back straight 3rd, behind a Solomio or a Droopy's Aladdin, and then you have a right good bet on.
he's one of those dogs, because don't forget they met, didn't they, Bookham and Aladdin in the second round. Aladdin had been really impressive in this first round from 3, and there was a lot of money for Bookham against Aladdin, and I had my biggest bet of the, well, it's not now the biggest bet of the Derby so far, but it was at the time, Droopy's Aladdin, and obviously he led, which I thought he would do, but Droopy's Bookham came out running from 1. He's got the same draw here. He comes out running and gets that momentum early, he could whip round on the rails and find himself in a very, very handy position in this race. A very handy position, because 2 and 3 could drive each other mad here. There is a scenario where that happens. Then it's, where's Freddie going to turn? Cheap Sandwich, we've already mentioned, we think will lead. And the other bits that we've mentioned, the only one left in the comp is Sing Along Molly, and she will be thundering home as well. So it's a conundrum, this race. And I think the safest bet is probably Cheap Sandwiches. I think the safest bet was actually first 3. I think Eddie Goodall put him up, and he did look massive at 9-4, but I couldn't take advantage of that. And Droopy's Bookham in the first 3 at 9-4 is a cracking bet, by the way. But yeah, it's a very, very interesting race. But gun to my head, I'd have to go with Cheap Sandwiches here.
Yeah, you and me both. On to the second quarter final, and Romeo Empire, No Better Feeling, are on the inside of the Laddie Da. And then you have a bit more early speed in Churchfield Sid and 4, Hello Diego, not renowned for his early speed, and Tiffield Tarquin on the outside in 6. I suspect that we both believe that Churchfield Sid is the most likely pace setter, but the Laddie Da is capable of taking a ping, and he could easily turn right on the heels of him. And if he does, well, we saw what happened in last year's Derby final. It could be a similar scenario, because I think Deladi Dash should lead up Romeo Empire, No Better Feeling. It's just a dream draw, because he's going to come out of trap 3. And as we saw from the head on last week, he just went up straight as an arrow from trap 3. Just absolutely loved the place. And yeah, I think the Laddie Dow will go around prominent behind Churchfield Sid. Tiffield Tarquin, he's a nice dog. I just don't think he's the same class as the Laddie Dow. Hello Diego will be staying on strongly. So will Romeo Empire. I think No Better Feeling has probably met his match here, but everything points to the Laddie Dow. He is short. Like, don't get me wrong. He's around 8-13, 4-7. It's probably about right.
I'll make him 2 on, yeah. I've actually he is my biggest bet. I've backed him at 8-11, Ian. That's my biggest bet in the Derby so far, and I don't have too many bets of that. I mean, I know he's at odds on, and Palomine said, "Odds on? What are you doing betting him at odds on?" I'll make him 2 on, and he's 8-11. So I thought I was struggling to find a big price. I actually do think I'll make Sid shorter than 6-1 as well. I'll make him 4.
Well, he looks the only sort of
straightforward.
The only dangerous wrong terminology, but he looks the obvious one in terms of if something's going to get loose, it's Sid. Yeah,
exactly. And he's just running so well. And I know he didn't lead last week, but he didn't actually get his best ping, and he had a lot of speed on his inside in Dynamic Force and obviously Solomeo, who kind of took his ground a little bit. Sid, actually, I don't mind Sid in 4. And it'll be really interesting to see. I think I remember Billy Evans said once they toyed with putting him middle, and it didn't really suit him. But that was in the early years. But I actually think in the makeup of this race, he has got a massive chance to lead. You'd think he's got more early pace than Deladidar, but Deladidar's just running so well. They met last week as well. No Better Feeling, who's in 2, Deladidar in 3, and they broke level. And Deladidar was 2 lengths in front of No Better Feeling. So you've got no reason to think that form won't be repeated. Romeo Empire, again, probably wants to get a flyer, to get momentum, to get rid of No Better Feeling, because they could get close together. I think Hello Diego and Tiffield Tarquin are drawn wrong. They were in the right boxes last week. Tiffield Tarquin has got a terrible habit of cutting right across at the bend and cutting across a little bit too soon as well. He's, as you say, he's not clearing Churchfield Sid, no chance.
Yeah.
So they could easily go around 3-4, 4-3 there. If it goes around 3-4, that's way in at Wincanton, by the way. But the one thing I think, and I think he will lead, Sid leads, you just don't want to be meeting him at the 3rd turn.
Yeah,
because he's another one. He'll cut across on on the bend.
Yeah. You'd like to think the laddie that has the experience and know-how now, that he wouldn't do something stupid and stick his nose where he shouldn't be sticking it. He'll wait his turn, and he'll still have way too much for Churchill sit off the last bench, I'd suspect. Like we look at the battle he had last year with Crafty Shavu, and she's a much stronger sort of bitch than Churchfield Sid, and he waited, found his run. I think she beat him by a short head, but like it was an unbelievable race for any dog to get as close as he did to her last year. That just goes to show what he's about. I agree with you. The laddie, 8-11, good man, PL. The early bird catches the worm and all that. 8-11 has well and truly disappeared. I wouldn't be waiting for that in the exchanges, by the way, folks. This fellow could go off a 148. That sort of a mark. Now, I'm sure people will sort of nibble away, and you might get up to 160 something, 62, 63, but I wouldn't say it'll last too long. I would suspect he'll go off a fairly hot favourite. On to the third quarterfinal, and 3 Irish, 3 English, Fay Point Harvey, 1 Slick Jamie, Prince Nassim, Bombay Pat, Dynamic Force, and UN Benny. The fact that there's no what you would call ping breakers here, well, maybe the exception of Fay Point Harvey on the inside. He's been very consistent at boxes.
Yes.
I just think Bombay Pat, and they are toying with the idea of going odds against this fella. I personally made him much shorter. He's 11-10 in places. I made
5-4.
5-4. I genuinely made this fella 4-7. Like,
I've got drawn in.
If you actually look at his best Irish form, and I obviously it was most of it through the Derby, but he won the Maiden Derby from 4.
He did.
It was nearly his best start. I feel that a middle box would probably take him out a bit more. I genuinely, just at the prices, 11-10, like this is sort of William Wallace stuff. Charge, you know what I mean? Let's go. Bombay Pat for me. Obviously, he's talented rivals to take on, but I don't think they have the class of him. Dynamic Force is very strong, very talented. He's on the wrong side of Bombay Pat. He's not a flying starter himself. He did 4 seconds last week. That's as good as he's done. Fay Point Harvey on the inside. Like, if Sing Along Molly's come from 3 lengths behind him, Bombay Pat can certainly come from behind them. And I just think there's a situation where Bombay Pat could lead on the corner and wade in a Wincanton, as they say.
I think so. I think, and you're right, his Achilles heel is his starting, Ian. But I actually don't think you've obviously gone and watched him in Shelburne out of 4. There was nothing wrong. He stayed reasonably straight before. It might be 4 1/4, but straight enough. Dynamic Force has, I told you, has got that bit of a trait that he will step to the right, leaving the boxes, but he can cut across, and he actually challenged inside Solomeo. And I know Paul Hennessy was toying with the idea of putting him Rouse. I don't know why he didn't want to put him middle, but Dynamic Force is off on the straights and he cuts the bends. But Dynamic Force actually stayed all right last time. And again, he's one of those where I think he won a sprint when the Kennedys had him. He won a sprint.
He did, yeah. Dundalk, I think, yeah.
Yeah, but you can get carried away with him being a sprinter. We actually had the lads that I bought a couple of dogs for, that I'm in the syndicate with, the Pompey Ventures lads. They actually had his brother. They called him Portsmouth Pedro. He's retired now, but and that's what made me kind of latch on to Dynamic Force. And he's got that sort of kind of crooked tail when he was a pup.
Yeah,
I think he's got a crooked tail.
Someone stood in his tail or something when he was a pup, and he carries it awkward. But it looks,
he does.
There's actually nothing wrong with his balance, but because of the tail being crooked, it looks like he's unbalanced or awkward. Yeah.
But this dog's running really well, Ian. He's running really, really well. So if he did get one of his best breaks, he could get it. He could get in the race. I mean, you're right. Fay Point Harvey is just going bang, bing, bing. You know, every single week. And as I said to you, I backed him last week because of that. But Molly got the run, and chinned him, and you know that's fine. I wasn't surprised.
This is a race where if Bombay Pat comes away, it's going to be 1 in 28.50. It's not going to be 1 in 28.80, which is where Fay Point Harvey is basically stuck. You know what I mean? Dynamic Force was a 28.61 last week, but that's with his best start. He's going to have to hammer out to get loose as well. Just Bombay Pat, simple as that. 11-10.
And I've backed him at 5-4. I had to, It just, as you say, I made him odds on, and he's odds against, so it was a no-brainer.
I'm going to have to send that trumpet back to you, to be honest, PL. We'll get to the last race, the last heat, should I say. And Yeah, there's a certain Bocco's Diamond racing from Trap 5 here, but this is not straightforward. Although
It could be.
I wouldn't be
Yeah.
laying them a big prices now, right?
No.
Bubbly Charger, Droopy's Plunge, Droopy's Trade, Keeple Maverick, Bocco's Diamond, and Slick Sentinel out in Trap 6. I don't think 5 is an issue for Bocco's Diamond. I think we would have seen that last Saturday night. He went up straight and true from 5 to get up the inside of Cheap Sandwiches after that little sort of gone down on his haunches. And funny, it's not as easy to see side on, but the head on, it was very obvious. Very obvious.
It was,
and for recovering to go around like that, like doing a 407, like again, I still believe there's a 390, 28.30 in this Greyhound. Could we see it on Saturday night? I hope not. I hope we see it in a fortnight's time, or in 3 weeks' time, should I say, on the 14th. But I'm not going to oppose him. But the prices are there. Like, he's not, like, what are we talking? 8 to 15? Is there any better than that out there?
No.
2 on? Like,
he's 2 on, and I make him 2 on. It's a half tricky draw. But the thing is, Ian, and it's funny because actually Joe Keneally, I've got the talkback of the Gone to the Dogs showing me here, and Joe picked it up straight away. To be fair to him, he said, did he half stumble there at the boxes? As you say, it wasn't quite apparent, but when they almost came together, and all of a sudden Cheap Sandwiches sort of got 3/4 of a length on him, and then he had to go and pace up, and that's the testament to the dog has got so much early. If he comes out running here, I think he'd be gone. I think he's got 2 lengths in hand of most of these to the corner.
Do you know what we don't often mention as well? 2 to 3, he's massive. Yeah. He's also an incredible bend runner. His first and second bend are incredible, but 2 to 3, he is absolutely massive. And that's what people don't realize. Like, he's only holding on by a length and a half, 2 lengths, and whatever in the final last year in atrocious conditions in Shelburne Park at the end of a long Derby campaign. You know, he had to put himself into the lead and then drive away from him. He's killing dogs down the back straight. Like, dogs that try to keep up with him are killing themselves. Like, and it just seems to come easy for him. Like, I know none of these have raced against him, but I think they're going to see his backside. And I think and it could be well in the distance come the third bend. Bubbly Charger's the interesting one. I agree with you. I would have much preferred to see him in 3 or 4. You know, Damien said it. We'd love to get Trap 4 again the next night, but you know, they realized a week too late, I'm afraid. They could have changed the previous week, and
I know they did.
Made a huge difference. If he was in 3 or 4 here, it would be a different scenario. Now, I'd still expect Bocco's Diamond to go round in front of him and beat him, but it might have been just a bit more. Whereas now, Bubbly Charger, you know, he has to come away racing to get himself in a position to qualify.
From a box that he didn't come away racing the last time in Trap. Now, you can say, he's had 2 more runs now at Toaster, but 2 more runs from Trap 4. So there is a difference. There's a massive difference. Dog's going in a straight, and you want to run. If you're going to beat Bocco's Diamond, you want to go ping and run in a straight line, and he would have done that from box 4 here.
Yeah, you need to go ping and run the straight line, but you also need him to miss it or do something wrong, because
Pat missed it.
Every dog
Pat missed it against him, and he beat him. Do you know what I mean? So there are scenarios where that can happen, because the front in Toaster is a nice place to be.
Very much.
You know, as we saw with Da. So, but Plunge will want to go in the ways here, and Bubbly Charger is going to move off. And you saw that in the first round when he was in Trap 1, when he was beat by Tiffield Tarquin. But Bubbly Charger's form looks like it's improved since because of those middle draws, and that is they missed a trick there. They massively missed a trick. I spoke to Steve Fluey, and he said, "Well, yeah, I don't train the dog," and you know, and that was a mistake. And you know, you need everything to go your way to win a derby, and all of a sudden now he's drawn in Trap 1, and that ain't no advantage here.
Yeah. Of the UK 4, obviously Droopy's Trade is capable of going up really fast from Trap 3.
Yeah.
Is he now, because of the draw, the biggest danger to Bocco's Diamond into the opening corner? Or is it Keeple Maverick, who can still do a 399? Like, he's sharp, you know, we know how good he is. You know, it's not just a case of Bocco's Diamond turns up and pings her out and goes. Like, if he does miss the kick a beat, he might just have dogs on his inside into that opening corner. Now, we know he can run around them like he did in the opening round, but we have to remember back in the open round, he leaned in on the dog and he took a couple of bumps. Like, he can't afford to do that if there's 2 dogs on his inside.
I actually think that in this race, Trade's probably got the best draw in this race, because Plunge will move in. Now, the thing is, if Plunge doesn't get a break, and I told you he probably wants to slow away, but you can't, you can't make him do that. But Bobby Charger, if he flew out and cleared Plunge, then all of a sudden he might give Droopy's trade something to think about. But if the trap's open and one moves off and two moves in, they could knock themselves out of the race. And all of a sudden now Trade's got the inside to himself. I had Keyfield Maverick moving off from trap 5 in the second round on those head-ons. But I don't think he did as much last week. So that might have just been a bit of an anomaly, Ian. I'd still be a little bit worried for Bocco's Diamond because I know Slick Sentinel went wallop last week and he moved into lane 5 straight away, and he might even go 4.5 as he gets to the bend. So Bocco's Diamond can't afford to do what he did last week. He needs a clean break, because I think if he gets a clean break, then he'll go and he'll be gone, and he will be gone.
This is a real sort of which side are you on sort of debate here. Like, you're in a situation where there will be people willing to take the two on about Bocco's Diamond. There'll also be plenty willing to take him on and lay him, and that's what you do on the other side of the market with the likes of Matchbook. And I just wouldn't be surprised now if this turned into a right good bet and it could all be surrounding the one Greyhound. I'm not saying that there'd be huge money for anything else against him, but he's one that certainly exchange punters won't be afraid to get stuck into, be it either side of the market, because he will end up being at a price where you go, God, there's enough quality around him. He misses the kick, and all of a sudden you're after saying it there. Keyfield Maverick has taken a step right at once in before from 5. Slick Sentinel has moved in from 6 last week. So there is a scenario where, obviously curtains are drawn on Bocco's Diamond, and it's a case of how do you force your way through. I don't know. Listen, I'm of the belief that anyone that saw him in the flesh in Shelbourne Park will never press the lay button, right? Because I know how good he is. And again, the
trap's open and he comes out and there's an orange flash and all of a sudden he's gone 2 or 3 clear.
He'll be a length
and then as you say, 2 or 3, he's gone 5 or 6 clear. Yeah. So.
Yeah. And
next week you're looking around for Plunge to come and get him, aren't you?
And next week we're looking at that. We're looking at 2.2 on the exchange. We're going, shag it. I wish I'd taken that 3.5.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's it. Bocco's Diamond wins. Simple as that. Is that it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. So it is a bit, it's a bit one of those.
So after all that chat, we're after tipping the 4 favourites, PL. Tremendous analysis from us.
Yeah. Although I will say that I think there's a couple of big prices. Maybe Dynamic Force is a little bit big at the sort of 9 to 2, 5 to 1 mark. Churchfield is definitely too big at 6s. Although I've had a big bet in the race, I think I'll probably be taking a bit of that as well before this goes out later.
The place markets could be busier this week than they have been.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think that's a good shout. Yeah.
Before we go,
especially Droopy's Bookham.
Yeah, before we go, PL, that's the 4 heats discussed. That's the quarterfinals, all done and dusted. We're looking forward to the semi-finals a week and a bit from now. How has everything been? It looked like it was a wonderful atmosphere last Saturday night. Even, was it George Watton speaking about March on Freddie? He got a bit distracted off the last bend. He said he hit a wall of noise, which is something you can't have said in the earlier rounds. Seemed like a really good crowd. People are rolling in behind this derby. It seems to be capturing the imagination.
Definitely, yeah. As I say, Toaster's looking really good, and they're making sort of improvements and additions every week. So yeah, it was a good atmosphere. Yeah, it was. There was some good racing, really good racing.
Yeah. No, we look forward to it, and of course, this week they'll have loads of good racing, quality competitions to back it up as we lead into the derby itself. It's going to be an unbelievable derby card, but each derby card from now on in is just going to be sensational. Outside of the derby action, you'll have nothing but opens. And if you can get to Toaster, well worth the visit. Like, it's a unique greyhound racing venue, PL, when you look at it. Like, it really is. It's more like something you'd see hosting a country fair or a big car boot sale, the beautiful stands and the beautiful grounds and the lush green grass everywhere. But it's a fantastic place to hold a derby final in terms of the venue, the sense of occasion. And if that sun is shining, it's a special place.
Yeah, and it's supposed to be very, very sunny on Saturday as well. So I'm really looking forward to it.
You better put some sun cream on that forehead of yours now, right? That's it from us, folks. My thanks again to the Master PL. We look forward to the semi-finals over a week from now, of course, but best of luck to anybody with a leg or a hair in a greyhound still in the Star Sports TRC English Greyhound Derby. Again, join us on Matchbook Betting Exchange. Pod50 is the code. £50 free bets. If you bet 50, get £50 back in free bets. Again, there you are. Enter the code POD50. But that's it from us. Don't forget to check out Matchbook Insights and indeed follow us and like us on all social media accounts. But that's it from us this evening. We are a few seconds short of 50 minutes. For God's sake, where does the time go, PL? Good luck. God bless. We'll see you next week.